Who has had sexual relations with a brother or sister? Who was a better wife for Dad, you or Mom?
Her father made advances at me. It all but paralyzed my mom. There was no one to stand up for me. I couldn't save you.
Sometimes I just run into some bullshit, and then I grab a shovel, and from the very bottom I start digging my way out.
My heart is pounding. Alive.
Life sure has some amazing screenwriters. And this is the Method Show, a completely unscripted show. Today we will discuss the topic of family secrets. Let's see what secrets are hidden by the main characters. And what scenarios and consequences do these scenarios manifest in their lives? I think this will be very interesting, and you will be able to relate it to your own life, and to see the same scenarios in oneself. Let's see. Do you have any acquaintances who had sexual experiences or relationships with a sibling in their childhood, or with a cousin, or aunt, niece, nephew? Do you have any acquaintances who had that experience in the form of a game at the age of 6 years old or so? When it's not allowed, but you don't even understand what it is. Does anyone have sisters still living in the same apartment and both are over 18? Like when two sisters share the same apartment, and for some reason, neither of them have any love life. Maybe you've heard that some families are tight on living space. And there, the children have to sleep in the same bed, no matter their gender. There just isn't enough space there, so the kids have to sleep in the same bed. Brother with sister, brother with brother, sister with sister. But for some reason, I can't see it as silverware. Hereditary silverware. Hereditary, most importantly, hereditary. Who would like to share their stories on this? Come on. Once again, I want to point out that all of you who come up here, you don't do it for just yourselves. You're here for everyone else, like I am. I, through talking to you, can talk to everyone else. And you, through talking to me, can uncover what was invisible to you and in some way touch God. To life-level answers, I, as Yulia, I can't interfere with your lives in any way. But as a guide, I can tell or show you something. You have this amazing option to ask and not bring your ego into it, but to serve other people in this moment. What is your name?
Anya.
Awesome. Please share about your history of silverware, incestuous affairs.
Now that you mentioned Dad, he divorced my mom and took me to another town. So I became his wife. He never remarried.
And you?
I got married, but I think I keep projecting my father onto my husband.
This is a little confusing. See, if you are a wife to your father, he is as much your husband as you are his wife. And the scenario where he never got married, we can assume, yes, indeed, that is one of the indicators that you have taken on the role of a wife. But you got married. And so the question is, what role does your husband play? Did he take stage in the role of an actual husband? Or did he take up some other vacant position? What are Anya's vacant positions? Vacant positions. First option is that if your dad is playing the role of a husband, then that means the role of a father is vacant. Or if the dad plays the role of a husband, then that means the child's role is vacant. So men come, and there's another option. They can become your sexual partner. Husband, child, father, sexual partner. Sometimes a woman might say, why do all the men who come into my life only want sex from me and never want to get married? Weird, right? Whenever it comes to talking about a more serious relationship or getting to know parents, he's like, nope. What role does your husband play in your life?
I always felt like my father's.
And how does this manifest?
It manifests in care, right down to things like, what time did you come home? Where are you? These are the kind of controlling cases that I have to talk to him about.
Are you ready to keep going? It won't be pleasant. When men and women play roles for each other, such as him being the father and her being the daughter, it creates an unequal hierarchy. And the first thing that is lost in this hierarchy is sex. Because fathers and daughters don't have sex, and there's no sex there. But it's not there because the man doesn't want it, and because the woman's libido is gone. It just disappears by itself. People think we must be tired or something. Yeah, it's normal once every 6 months or 3. Or someone who's married doesn't have sex for years. For years. And I'm not talking about age right now, over 60, over 70, when the body ages and some natural processes take place. One moment, a commercial break. I have a huge request for you. Please put away your phone. Believe me, there's enough cameras here. They'll do a better job than you. But when you take a video, when there is a ban on that, you start consuming a lot of energy from the entire room. And that includes throwing your friend under the bus.
She is my sister.
Damn.
Who we just shared a bed with.
Come help. Vitya needs to get out.
And the incestuous story is, her father. That's my mother's second husband who molested me. That's where the sexual narrative comes in.
Come on up. You'll be on the camera. Everyone will see you.
And even here, we're together.
Sometimes I click something and then... What's your name?
Yana.
And you? Yana, Anya. Awesome. Go on. Anything else?
So, in short, there was a stepfather who molested me, kissed me on the lips, and there was some kind of reaction further in life, some men who I'd met. They assaulted me in the streets. It's all together. Cervical cancer. There is no uterus at all. It has been removed.
Yours?
Mine, because that's just how it is.
Wait, slow down. Do you have time to process this?
I've been married 21 years.
Do you have children?
I have 2 sons.
Okay, and you?
I don't have that much baggage, but I'm always there for her. I am married with 2 children, a boy and a girl.
And you?
And we also share a common sex partner, our grandfather, who is my stepfather's stepfather, who also molested us in all sorts of ways when we were kids. So it's still there, in that I freeze up sometimes, and I keep track of it.
So, no, hold on. Who was the common sexual partner again?
Stepfather of Yana's father. He's Yana's father and my stepfather. So like a common grandpa. I mean, when we were little, he was about the same to us. When molesting us, I mean. Like stroking or doing things. And that's what I'm experiencing now. In those moments, I would freeze up because I didn't know what to do. Because I was just a child.
So, okay, but your husbands and children, are they related, like fathers or stepfathers?
Fathers.
Both of them? And how old are your children?
Mine are 17 and 6. 2.5 and 4.5.
Which one is older? Okay, what do you want?
To count our silverware?
What do you want?
It's important for me. I mean, I'm left with my husband. I have all these experiences, but there's still some misunderstanding left. There's still some fear, sickness.
No, let's do it differently. Hold on. Do you have a father-daughter relationship with your husband? What about sex?
Well, on matter of sex, I don't really have any libido towards him. Not after the operation. No.
You don't want him?
I don't want him.
What about him?
He wants me.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who was conceived
who was conceived
through abuse.
through abuse.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all my reincarnations
all my reincarnations
where I engaged in abuse.
where I engaged in abuse.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
And it seems
And it seems
that I have many questions
that I have many questions
with my power.
with my power.
When I have powers,
When I have powers,
I use it to repress
I use it to repress
other people,
other people,
including through abuse.
including through abuse.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
which I already paid for it.
which I already paid for it.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that I wasn't wanted
that I wasn't wanted
as a girl.
as a girl.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
That I had to become a boy
That I had to become a boy
to survive.
to survive.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations.
and in my reincarnations. Men
Who had to pretend
who had to pretend
to be a woman.
to be a woman.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
And all women
And all women
who had to pretend
who had to pretend
to be men.
to be men.
To survive.
To survive.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that I have a part
that I have a part
of a man,
of a man,
and it's not a masculine part.
and it's not a masculine part.
It's some essence
It's some essence
or entity
or entity
of a man.
of a man.
He was looking for a body
He was looking for a body
and found mine,
and found mine,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that I'm a great man,
a great man,
better than other men,
better than other men,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
Say, and it seems
And it seems
that sometime
that sometime
I needed protection
I needed protection
when I was a little girl.
when I was a little girl.
There was no one to stand up for me.
There was no one to stand up for me,
And I cried for help,
and I cried for help,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
And that's when I attracted
And that's when I attracted
the essence of a burly man.
the essence of a burly man.
I gave him my body
I gave him my body
so that through inhabiting me,
so that through inhabiting me,
he could fight back.
he could fight back,
And I give it space.
and I give it space.
This will be fun. I need a strong man. Oh, wow. You are absolutely perfect for this.
I saw him during the break.
What is your name?
Arthur.
Arthur, Anya. Some time ago, when you couldn't stand up for yourself and handle the things that happened to you when you were a little girl. This freezing. You didn't have that part inside you that could say no. And there were no parents to come in and say no either. But your request for protection, it was out there. And for the psyche to be able to withstand it, to be okay. She might unconsciously ask for help, like, save me, please. And the world is not only material and manifested as we see it. There are still undiscovered various comrades. The only difference is that you and I have a body, and they do not have their own body. But they really want to express themselves, like really, really want to. And there are people who are generally irresponsible and treat their bodies like an elevator. Others can come in and come out and over again. But there is no such thing as an injustice in this world. Yes, everything that's happened, it's fair for some reason. Let's unravel that now. Some things I can show you. And you're in that state of mind. You're like, man, how do I fight back? And then the image of Arthur flashes by. And he's like, I'd love to. And then he possesses your body. And then you get this kind of masculine manifestation. But it can be very...
I fight with men. Every once in a while, it happens that I don't exactly get into a fight, but in some way, even just a little bit, I can still feel the fight. And that's what men should be like.
Arthur needs to manifest somehow to protect you. There is a function, and you summoned him for this function. He came for this function, and he's ready to perform it. But there are some nuances. The first, at least, is that you fight with men. The second is that Arthur doesn't have a uterus. So living in her body, everything related to the feminine things, it starts other energetic processes in the body, and then the body fails. When something goes wrong in the body, sickness or a disease, a disease is an abnormal flow of energy in the body. The consequence of that is a disease. Disease is God's cure by knowledge. And it got to the point for you where you had to have your uterus removed. And on the one hand, there are huge benefits to having Arthur help you get through what you've been through. But on the other hand, it has its own prices. And when it manifests through your body, there are these inconsistencies, dissonance, and it concerns health. Your relationship with your sister makes perfect sense. And even the way you look, you're very similar, but you're in a suit, she's in a sexy dress. And that's the distinctly feminine part. And here's the interesting thing, Anya, Yana, are like antagonists to each other, but at the same time, it's like they're merged together. I'm explaining it for the brain right now, but look. I'm just a guide. I can't force it out of you. You've been having normal conversations in general. You get together fine, almost mathematically. And to do something about it, and for me to walk you through some process, I need you to be ready to part ways with him.
I'm ready.
Are you sure? What about fighting men?
Awesome.
Do women hit you often?
Not really.
Okay,
Yes, no.
Okay, fine. Yes, you're doing good. You're doing really good. I love it when we get men coming. It's such a show of trust. Before I go any further, it's important for me to ask you as observers, according to the laws of quantum physics, as we remember, whether light is as a wave or as a particle depends on the observer. You as observers have a very strong influence on this process. It's your story too. How are you? All right?
I'm waiting to spar. I have a feeling, that is. I'm sitting like this.
No, there won't be a sparring.
It's just a feeling. Like that.
All right, say phrases. I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that I have a part inside me
that I have a part inside me
of a man
of a man
that protects me
that protects me
from other men.
from other men.
He fights them,
He fights them,
gives proof,
gives proof,
fights.
fights.
I give him space.
I give him space.
Let me just give it to you as an image. There he is. That's the man inside your body. And for the first time, you have a chance to talk to him. Tell him, thanks to you,
Thanks to you,
I was able to defend myself.
I was able to defend myself.
Thanks to you,
Thanks to you,
I felt safe.
I felt safe.
Thanks to you,
Thanks to you,
I was able to cope
I was able to cope
with the theme of abuse.
with the theme of abuse,
And a part of me
and a part of me
is afraid to let you go.
is afraid to let you go.
For most of my life,
For most of my life,
we were together.
we were together.
I think we are close to each other.
I think we are close to each other.
So close
So close
that I can't make a distinction
that I can't make a distinction
between myself and you.
between myself and you.
So close
So close
that even my sister felt distant.
That even my sister felt distant.
Let's say phrases. This is my body.
This is my body.
I'll take care of it myself.
I'll take care of it myself.
How do you feel?
I've gone limp.
I forbid
I forbid
others to invade my body.
others to invade my body.
All other entities.
All other entities.
You can really see the process going on, yes? It's just letting up on its own. Deeper and deeper. How do you feel? What's happening to you in this moment?
When I talked to him, Arthur, he has my father's eyes and eyebrows. My father's.
Turn to your sister. Say, and it seems
And it seems
that I was jealous.
that I was jealous,
That my dad,
that my dad,
that's what I thought he was like.
that's what I thought he was like.
He loves you more
He loves you more
than me.
than me.
So I had to attract him
So I had to attract him
through abuse
through abuse
so that I would be special
so that I would be special
and closer to him
and closer to him
than you were.
than you were.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
The abuser and the victim have a very strong bond, almost more than if they were related by blood. I'll tell you a terrible thing, that the abuser and the victim enter each other's generic systems. There is such a powerful charge there, either abuse, violence, or murder. They merge with the victim into the generic system. And that's what happens. Anna was the eldest child. She has her biological father. Her mother marries her stepfather, or builds some other relationship. And that's where the beautiful Yana is born. And the whole world revolves around her. She's the youngest child. At that point, on an unconscious level, older child understands that this is actually not her dad. I cannot, as a daughter, demand, "Dad, but why do you love her more?" It's understandable, because the connection there is more than just familial. It's entirely unconscious. This thing comes up. Then I can attract him as a woman. Sure, this is on a childish level. How old were you?
10.
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that I won this man over.
that I won this man over.
At that moment,
At that moment,
I became better than other women
I became better than other women
because he loved me.
because he loved me.
Not my mother or my sister.
Not my mother or my sister.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
So this is where this misalignment happens.
It all but paralyzed my mom. She's still paralyzed.
Do you want to go to the next layer? You say it out loud and you say it in a whisper. I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that in my family
that in my family
there is fierce competition
there is fierce competition
between women for their men,
between women for their men,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations,
and in my reincarnations,
women
women
who had to
who had to
compete for a man
compete for a man
with other women
with other women
in order to carry on the bloodline
in order to carry on the bloodline
and to survive.
and to survive.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all my reincarnations
all my reincarnations
in which I was a twin,
in which I was a twin,
a sister,
a sister,
or an identical twin,
or an identical twin,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it,
at which I got it,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all my incarnations
all my incarnations
in the Gemini constellation.
in the Gemini constellation.
I've got it.
My son is a Gemini. He's the only Gemini I know, born prematurely at 29 weeks,
And I give it space.
and I give it space.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations,
and in my reincarnations,
Gemini,
Gemini,
who were separated,
who were separated,
who was put in an orphanage,
who was put in an orphanage,
and who didn't know they were a twin.
and who didn't know they were a twin.
I give them space.
I give them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it,
at which I got it,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
How do you feel?
When I was saying the phrases about twins, I didn't know. That is, when my son was born, a Gemini at 29 weeks. I had a tumor at the time, so it was right next to him. So it's the same thing. I mean, this cancer. They found it later. Nobody knew. But it was always the same size as a child.
And did you carry them like twins?
It was a tumor.
I get that, but did they tell you?
No, they told me nothing. They asked questions about determining the gestational age, things like that, because the timing didn't add up. But they were growing up at the same time.
Okay, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family,
all those in my family,
women,
women,
who took a child away,
who took a child away,
a twin,
a twin,
from another family,
from another family,
because she herself
couldn't have children.
So she stole that child
So she stole that child
from another woman,
and
and I give it space.
I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
Why do you have such a strong reaction?
My grandmother, my mom's mom, she grew up in a family that didn't have children for a very long time. But they went somewhere in some other city and came home with her. And her mother, who we considered our own mother, told us at her wedding 18 years ago, "You're not my own child." That's the only thing we know from this story. So it's unclear whether we were or weren't. But the grandmother kept saying that.
Life sure has some amazing screenwriters. You see, these stories, you can't make them up. You'd have to have a very twisted brain to come up with that. I'm going to throw up. Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
the lesson I learned
the lesson I learned,
that I can't take away children
that I can't take away children
from their mothers.
from their mothers.
Whenever this story comes up about injustice or misalignment in the balance, next generations will always bring a balance in the end. And if the grandmother was stolen, or somehow there was no girl now, we can't have a child, so we took it away from someone. Good girl.
It was 1942.
It doesn't matter. It's great how you can fit the question to the answer. When women dream of a child, it is 1942. People are dying nearby. It's an excellent excuse.
Because there was a version that the mother was dead. It's a good excuse.
Look,
Where did I even get that from?
let me tell you. I am based on the fact that everything in the world is totally fair. If there are any misalignments, then they are balanced by exactly the same misalignments after. And in the case there was a violation of the law, the universal law, we put up figures. Law and God. If it wasn't according to law and God's ways, then to balance it all out, some events happen and bring about justice. If there is sickness or disease of some kind, it means there's a huge lie being swept under the rug somewhere. Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that in my family,
that in my family,
there is a lot of falsehood
there is a lot of falsehood
that was covered up.
that was covered up.
And now to all of that,
And now, to all of that,
I give space.
I give space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
Let's set you free. Come, sit down. How do you feel?
I feel well. It's just that at exactly the moment we made the decision to drive here, I got really sick. I felt really bad. I haven't felt like that for a long time. I just felt so sick. I had to lay down and I didn't know what to do. We drove 20 hours from Novorossiysk with 3 kids, right after my birthday. We went at night without getting any sleep.
Whose idea was that? Yours?
She says there are good tickets, and I say, get them then. I didn't know where. So we went, and now we're here.
Cool journey. How do you feel?
All right. There were a lot of direct hits that were like, I knew them, but now they unraveled.
Now I want to show it to everyone else. You know, this process wraps up so beautifully. To really manifest all this, to show it to me, you really had to piss me off with your phone. And I'm standing here and I realize, man, it's so annoying, and I ignore it. I move on.
You just said something about a third person, and our mom was the third. She's also always near us. She says, we don't wait for a third. We didn't take her with us. This is the thought. There's also a third unborn child that came before me, and I kind of wouldn't be there if he was born, but they buried him, and it was a traumatic experience for Dad. As for me, he had to pay my mother to give me birth.
He paid her?
That's the story I was told in my childhood. Mom doesn't say how things really were.
Interesting. Okay, let's go. I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who sold their children
who sold their children
and who bought children
and who bought children
for money,
for money,
and I give them space.
and I give them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price,
at exactly the price
which I already paid for it.
which I already paid for it.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all my reincarnations
all my reincarnations
in which I engaged
in which I engaged
in child trade,
in child trade,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price,
at exactly the price
which I already paid for it,
which I already paid for it,
and I give it space.
and I give it space.
The world is so perfectly designed that if in your lineage or in your past lives you have sold children, then you have to pay it in this life. Dad pays money to mom to give birth, this way buying a child, so she can come into this life. Take off your shirt. Let's do this. Say to her, and you listen, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that our souls are connected,
that our souls are connected.
but no matter how they were connected before,
But no matter how they were connected before,
in this life,
in this life,
you and I are bound,
you and I are bound
like sisters.
like sisters.
Say, I got it wrong,
I got it wrong.
and in our past lives,
And in our past lives,
whatever relationship we had with each other,
whatever relationship we had with each other,
I owed you something,
I owed you something.
and I don't remember what,
And I don't remember what,
but I promised to give it back to you.
but I promised to give it back to you.
How do you feel?
If we go back, my mom was paralyzed when I was 6.5, and she became my mom. She packed me up for school, bought me things, drove me around. And I myself come from Ukraine, from the Luhansk region. And in 2011, she moved me to Galenzik. She gave me everything: money, shelter, food, clothes, everything.
Now you tell her, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that our souls are connected,
that our souls are connected.
and no matter how they were connected before,
And no matter how they were connected before,
in this life,
in this life,
you are my sister.
you are my sister.
Say, and it seems
And it seems
that in our past lives,
that in our past lives,
I couldn't save you.
I couldn't save you.
And I still try to do that in this one.
And I still try to do that in this one.
But that was then and there.
But that was then and there.
And we are here and now.
And we are here and now.
Now tell her, to you,
To you,
I will never pay back.
I will never pay back to you.
You've done so much for me.
You've done so much for me.
And some part of me
And some part of me
thinks
thinks
that I'm forever indebted
to you.
And I give that part space. Say, I have that part too. Part which owes you. Like land to the landowner. How are you feeling?
We were just talking about money. She tells me when she pays me that I don't do anything. And I can't serve when I'm thinking about money. We lead transformational trainings in which she's the trainer, I'm the organizer. And she pays me.
Say, I don't even know.
I don't even know
Where else to put your money?
where else to put your money
To repay the debt.
to repay the debt.
Say, I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who made others disabled, and I give it space.
and I give it space.
So this is another important misalignment. You don't have your mother as this great figure because you have it in your head that your mom is poor and miserable, and you're so cool and awesome. So you start looking who owes whom, who took more, who gave less, who cared, who didn't, because they don't have a mother figure. It was erased. Just as you erased a mother figure from those children who were stolen. So in a way, there was never a real mom. There was just some woman, and your unconscious didn't parse her as a mother. Therefore, in order to heal the system, a mother must be reintroduced. Doesn't matter. It doesn't if she's in the ICU or in a wheelchair, even if she isn't alive. But there must be a mother in the system, or you'll all be fighting over who's the cooler mom. Okay, I need Mother of the Year. That sounds tempting, but no. Okay, I need... How old is your mother?
62.
There's a beautiful mother. Come on. Because these are young ones, pregnant ones. No, we need an experienced woman. What's your name?
Elena. And my mother is Elena.
That's where you believe in God, right? You don't happen to have any daughters, do you? No? Do you have any children? Sons?
There is one born and 2 twins. First call.
First abortion.
Twins.
Twins, girls.
I'm sorry. The reverse story, right?
You're just amazing. Do you have a suspicion in your head that it's only like this here and not in your regular life? While I accidentally bought this dress, I was standing next to it yesterday. Do you just think that at least one person in your life took a seat just right next to you? Someone you don't know at all. It's like a simulation. Everyone has a chair, exactly the right chair. There's not a single person here who got here, who wasn't supposed to be here, who didn't recognize me until this morning. There's not a single person here who couldn't come. It's like, oh, I tried so hard, but they closed the doors in front of me. There's not even a slightest bit, not even a hair of a mistake in this world. Not at all. How is that possible? Say this. I was excluded.
I was excluded
From the system.
from the system.
I can't take my own place.
I can't take my own place.
Say this. I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
all those in my family
all those in my family
and in my reincarnations
and in my reincarnations
who excluded their mother
who excluded their mother
from their systems.
from their systems.
And to survive,
And to survive,
I give them space.
I give them space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
which I already paid for it.
which I already paid for it.
I acknowledge and accept
I acknowledge and accept
that every mother
that every mother
has a right to a place in the system,
has a right to a place in the system,
and there's no one to replace her with.
and there's no one to replace her with.
Not with a grandmother,
Not with a grandmother,
not with a stepmother,
not with a stepmother,
not with anyone else.
not with anyone else.
And I give it space.
And I give it space.
Now you can take the place of a mother, except you have 2 daughters. No. Elena, please stand closer. How are you feeling? What is happening? Here's Anya and Yana.
All you said about my grandmother especially, because my grandmother raised me more. So the mother figure was displaced altogether. And she looks just like our grandmother a lot.
Okay, we have one more vacancy. You can be an older woman in the family, just as a figure. You don't look like a grandmother. You're too young. Grandmothers aren't with us anymore. You're the oldest woman in the family. Out of the mother figure, I pull out every older figure. Grandmothers, great-grandmothers, great-great-grandmothers. Because even after seeing her as a mom figure, you say, oh, that's our grandmother. So you're displacing your mom even there. I'm pulling your grandmother's projections out of her into another figure. This is where your mom stands. Come, you say to her. Say, Mother.
Mother,
I excluded you.
I excluded you.
I thought you were disabled,
I thought you were disabled,
and I had to abandon you.
and I had to abandon you.
I thought you were weaker than me,
I thought you were weaker than me,
that I wouldn't survive.
that I wouldn't survive
If you were a more important figure than me,
if you were a more important figure than me.
and I give it space.
And I give it space.
I embrace that experience
I embrace that experience
at exactly the price
at exactly the price
at which I got it.
at which I got it.
And it turns out
And it turns out
that you're great,
that you're great,
no matter the fate you lived.
no matter the fate you lived.
You are my mother.
You are my mother.
And now we do the magic. I'll show you how to sit down. This is the child's position. You sit down too. There's someone else's slippers here. Feels like someone else is here, you know? I didn't tell you to take your shoes off and leave them here. It's like magic, someone else's feet.
I really wanted to take my shoes off, so I did.
You did.
And the napkins.
Of place taker. Say the phrase, and some part of me.
And some part of me.
mixes up my mother
mixes up my mother
with other women,
with other women,
thinking that they are the mother,
thinking that they are the mother,
and I give that part space.
and I give that part space.
Yana, you too. And some part of me
And some part of me
mixes up other women
mixes up other women
with my mother,
with my mother,
and I give that part space.
and I give that part space.
We're switching things up in those girls' heads about excluding one's mother and substituting her with other women. How are you there? How's Elena feeling?
My heart is pounding. Tunk, tunk, tunk.
Alive.
Definitely.
Say this phrase. I'm alive.
I'm alive,
And I was alive back then.
and I was alive back then.
And back then mothers of those children were alive too.
And back then, the mothers of those children were alive too,
But they were separated.
but they were separated.
It's letting up for them. Do you understand? If that code wasn't in them, their bodies wouldn't react like that. They'd sit there and it wouldn't affect them. But when there's a bodily reaction, there's this. Yes, these exhalations, tears, the reactions. They're just sitting there, Mom says, a mother figure. And the girls are starting to go through a strong process. You come home to your mom's house and treat her like she's in a great position. Give her flowers.
When I'm sitting now, it's like I'm getting pressure right here. A lot of it.
Pride does apply a lot of pressure. You will transition to your new level through your life processes. Then you'll accept and recognize in the mom that you have, in the version that you have, what a great and strong woman she is in general. And you'll stand not from the position of grandmothers, great-grandmothers, but you switch and become her children, sit on her lap. Sit down to watch TV, for example. Sit under your mom's feet. This asana has a powerful healing force. You can't do it with your brain, do it with your body. Sit on your mom's lap. Do it with your body. That's about it. How does the woman of the family feel?
Easy.
Can't see you. Come out, woman of the family.
I want to hug all of you. My mom passed away 1.5 years ago, and I had a picture of a woman of the family on my screensaver for months. I changed it to a picture of myself just yesterday.
All right, let's split up. Thanks. I need to get back into my human part. I can't take it anymore.
Мне хочется поблагодарить всех вас за то, что
I want to thank all of you for allowing me to witness this miracle.
и хочу поблагодарить Архангела,
And I want to thank Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel, who accompanied this
кто
process,
сопровождал этот процесс, чтобы вам показать,
to show you a little bit of myself, and I'm thankful that
И я благодарю за то, что я
I live in
живу в
such a
такое
time
время, когда об этом можно говорить.
when I can talk about it, when I can show it.
Это шоу увидят ровно те люди,
It's a show that exactly the right people will see.
чьи истории есть здесь. Они ходят
People
по
whose
миру и
stories are
задают
in it.
свои вопросы к тренерам, к
They go around the world and ask their questions
или к
to trainers, to popes at church, or mentors,
старшим рода кто-то приходит.
or maybe a senior of some kind.
Но
Someone comes or does not come.
Архангел Михаил и Гавриил
But still, when Archangels Michael and Gabriel want to take care of some person,
они
they will show them this video.
это видео. И это за пределами.
And it's beyond human. It's not done on that level.
Это не на этом уровне делается. Это не решается деньгами. Это
It's not solved by money. It's not solved by popularity.
И я благодарю за то, что
And I'm thankful that I have the ability to endure it,
возможность это выдерживать,
that I have the ability to carry it out,
что у меня есть возможность это проводить,
and you have the ability to embrace it.
принимать. На этом все.
That'll be all.
До новых встреч.
Until next time.